I went to work as a regional historical planner, working for 4 counties, then 5. And a part of my work was to do school tours and programming for everybody who wanted to hear it. So I began in 1975 taking people to this cabin. And of course, at that point, Steve Taylor owned it. And of course, the boxwood was in the backyard, and I hope all of you older ones at least got to see that boxwood in place. It was 75 feet in circumference and just a fabulous place to hide for children who got in the middle of it. But most of you know in 1952, the house was in the hands of the Taylor family, who actually lived in it about 100 years after the Joneses left. So the cabin was built in 1830. The boxwood, we think, was planted about the same time. But in 52, the White House Landscape Committee got in touch with Mr. W.S. Taylor and said, we're interested in that boxwood. Would you be willing to sell it to come to Washington to be on the White House lawn? And Mr. Taylor said, no, I don't think it can make the trip on the train. So there was a period that we might have lost the boxwood earlier than we almost did in 2009. When I got a call one morning while I was at work at the community college, and somebody said, they have dug up that boxwood. Well, I just got in my car and drove away from work and went down there, and they...
You'll tell them where it was. What? I mean,
No.
boxwood, some of them may not know.
Some may not know. This was 10 miles north of here. The house was 10 miles north of here, and the boxwood in the backyard. I'm sorry, I'm making assumptions that people know things they don't.
There may be.
Thank you, Paula. But anyway, so I got there, and I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, the code boys have bought the property, and they had told my husband Jerry that they weren't going to tear the house down, but the bulldozer operator said, well, it's a good thing I started with the boxwood. I started to push the house down first. So I looked at the guy who owned the property. I said, how much do you want for it? He told me. I said, I'm going to buy it. So that was the first rescue effort, and then we took it down piece by piece and rebuilt it here in 2009. I had paid a man to come 10 miles with that boxwood in his bulldozer bucket, and we replanted it. The limbs were about this big on that boxwood, and you know boxwoods don't have big limbs, but a 200-year-old boxwood does. So if you look to the left of the pack house there, you'll see a little kind of outcropping of boxwood, and that is what's left of the original boxwood. The one that you see further on there is one that had been transplanted from the original that was at the cabin as well. So everything arrived here. We got it built back in 2009, and the reason I wanted to bring it here was because John Jones was my third great-grandfather, and Paula's and a lot of yours, but he was my great-grandmother's grandfather. And she and her husband, Samuel Josiah Atkinson, her name was Sarah Russell Jones, built this house in 1893. So I thought it made sense that the cabin come here. So we have enjoyed it as just a family puzzle that we've put together. We do have some photographs in the hall down there. I want to tell you, if you'd like to go down and see those, Mahalia, there's a picture of Mahalia, who was married to Russell Jones, who was Johnny's son, the last. And he was killed in a sawmill accident before my great-grandmother was born. Mahalia was pregnant with Sarah and was killed. So all of my great-grandmother's life, people would bring babies to her to blow in their mouths to cure thrush, because they said if you never saw your father, you had that ability. And she once told my mother, who's over here and will be 93 tomorrow, yay mother, she said, I don't think this works, but if they want me to do it, I will. But that's the real short version, and it's real hard for me to do a short version of anything. But we are really glad for you all to be here. We're all cousins, and all of us go back to this man, who was really the father of the primitive Baptist movement, I guess we could say, in this whole region. Of course, he was the moderator of the Fisher River Primitive Baptist Church from 1848 till he died. came up to camp. So I'm thrilled that she can make this connection because he is her 4th great grandfather, or 5th, I think, for you. But anyway, thank you for coming, and we have restroom facilities in the house. There's 1 restroom on the 1st floor under the steps, 2 restrooms upstairs. So please feel free, enjoy the house there, and just talk with everybody, learn who everybody is, and celebrate this heritage that we have and this beautiful day God's given us.
Amen.